Why does a baby cry the moment it is born? A cry not of fear, but the first declaration of life. After 9 months of silence inside the womb, a baby enters a world filled with light, sound, and movement. And the very first response is a cry. This cry is not random. It is deeply biological, emotional, and essential for survival. Science, the brain, and the beginning of human life come together in this moment. In this documentary, we explore what that first cry truly means, why it happens, what it signals inside the body, and why it matters so much. Why does a baby cry the moment it is born? Watch closely. The first sound of life. When a baby enters the world, its very first response is a cry. This sound is not an expression of fear or pain. It is the announcement that life has begun outside the womb. For doctors, nurses, and family members, this cry is the most reassuring sound in the delivery room. It confirms that the baby's lungs, heart, and nervous system have begun working independently. That first cry tells everyone present that the newborn has successfully made the transition from dependence on the mother to life on its own. It is, quite literally, the sound of survival. From the womb to the outside world. For 9 months, the baby grows in a warm, dark, fluid-filled, and protected environment. Inside the womb, there is no harsh light, no cold air, and no sudden noise. Birth changes everything instantly. Bright lights, unfamiliar sounds, gravity, and cooler air overwhelm the baby's senses. This sudden environmental shift creates a form of physical and neurological shock. Crying becomes the baby's natural response to this overwhelming new reality. It is the body's way of reacting, adjusting, and signaling distress during this sudden transition. The first breath. The most important meaning of a newborn's first cry is breathing. Inside the womb, the baby does not breathe air. Instead, oxygen is supplied through the placenta, and the lungs are filled with amniotic fluid. When the baby cries for the first time, that fluid is pushed out of the lungs. At the same moment, oxygen-rich air rushes in. This first breath marks the beginning of independent respiration. Without it, survival outside the womb would be impossible. That cry is, in fact, the sound of the lungs learning to work, opening the lungs naturally. At birth, a baby's lungs are not fully expanded. The tiny air sacs, called alveoli, are partially collapsed. Crying plays a crucial role in opening them. Each strong cry forces air deep into the lungs, helping them stretch and expand. This process can be uncomfortable, which is why the crying often becomes louder and more intense. But this discomfort is temporary and necessary. It allows the lungs to fully adapt to breathing air. Crying, therefore, is a natural and vital exercise that prepares the lungs for a lifetime of breathing. Regulating heartbeat and blood flow. Birth causes dramatic changes in the baby's circulatory system. Before birth, blood bypasses the lungs. After birth, circulation must reroute to include them. Crying helps trigger this transition. As the baby cries, the heart rate increases and blood begins to circulate more efficiently throughout the body. Oxygen is delivered to the brain, muscles, and vital organs. This adjustment is essential for stabilizing the newborn's physiology. The cry supports the heart as it adapts to its new workload, ensuring that every part of the body receives the oxygen it needs. Awakening the digestive system. Crying does more than help with breathing and circulation. It also activates the digestive system. The physical effort involved in crying stimulates the gut and prepares the baby's body for its first feeding. This process signals that the digestive organs are ready to accept nourishment, especially mother's milk. In this way, crying marks the transition from placental nutrition to feeding through the mouth. It is a sign that the baby's internal systems are awakening and coordinating. The cry announces readiness, not just to breathe, but also to feed and grow. Why, crying comes before smiling. A newborn's brain is still developing at birth. The parts responsible for basic survival functions mature earlier than those responsible for social interaction. Crying is controlled by the lower brain regions, including the brainstem and the amygdala. These areas manage reflexes, breathing, and basic emotional responses. Because they are already functional at birth, crying becomes the baby's first form of expression. Smiling, laughter, and social interaction require higher brain processing, which develops later. That is why crying naturally comes first. It is rooted in survival. Why smiles take time. Smiling and social responses are controlled by the cerebral cortex, the upper and more complex part of the brain. This area is responsible for awareness, recognition, and emotional connection. Unlike the lower brain regions, the cerebral cortex develops gradually after birth. As babies begin to see clearly, recognize faces, and respond to voices, this part of the brain strengthens. That is why conscious smiling usually appears between 6 and 8 weeks of age. A smile is not just a muscle movement. It is a sign of growing awareness and social connection. Not all smiles are the same. Newborns are sometimes seen smiling while asleep, but this does not mean they are feeling happiness. These early smiles are called reflex smiles. They occur due to involuntary muscle movements and nervous system activity. True emotional smiling, known as the social smile, appears later. This smile happens when a baby recognizes a familiar face, hears a comforting voice, or responds to interaction. The difference between the two highlights how the brain matures over time, from reflex-driven actions to meaningful emotional communication. When crying is absent. If a baby does not cry at all after birth, doctors become concerned. The absence of crying may indicate a lack of oxygen, a condition known as perinatal asphyxia. Without enough oxygen, the brain and other vital organs can suffer damage. Immediate medical attention is required in such cases. Doctors may stimulate breathing or provide oxygen support. While modern medicine can often help, the absence of an initial cry is always treated as a warning sign. That first cry is not just expected, it is critical. The meaning of delayed crying. Sometimes, a baby may cry later than expected. This does not always mean something is wrong. With prompt medical care, delayed crying can be followed by a full recovery. However, in medical practice, the sooner the first cry is heard, the better the baby's condition is considered to be. Delayed crying still signals that the baby needed assistance adjusting to life outside the womb. It reminds us how delicate and complex the moment of birth truly is, and how closely doctors must observe every second. The language of life. A baby's cry is not something to fear or be annoyed by. It is the first language of life, the very first form of communication between a human being and the world. Within that cry lies breath, heartbeat, hunger, discomfort, and the instinct to survive. It is raw, honest, and powerful. That sound carries the promise of future smiles, laughter, and words. The cry marks the beginning of a lifelong journey of expression. It is not noise, it is meaning. The mystery of a newborn's cry, a gentle appeal. If this story touched your heart, please like and share it. If you feel inspired, support us with super thank gifts. Subscribe to our channel, and let us know in the comments how these stories made you feel. Your love is our strength, and with that strength, we will return again and again with more meaningful stories. Until we meet again, in a beautiful moment with the wild ones, dear.